The condemned man didn't flinch as the steel door clanged open. He sat on the edge of his bunk, palms flat, eyes hollow. No cuffs, no shackles. Just time, what Louis had left, and the slow, padded footsteps of K9 trotting in beside the warden. No one spoke. Not the guards lining the hall. Not the witnesses behind the glass. The dog stopped just short of the inmate's boots. Tilted its head. Then, slowly, too slowly, it whimpered. The man's voice, when it came, was calm, quiet, and utterly wrong. The execution chamber smelled of bleach and cold metal, the kind of sterile that didn't clean anything you could see, only what you could feel. It clung to the skin, burned the nose. Above, the fluorescent lights buzzed just enough to be heard, but not loud enough to blame for the headache pressing at Warden Elias Granger's temples. It was always like this on execution nights. But tonight, something about it itched. "Open cell 18, Elias said, voice low, flat. The steel groaned open. A mechanical sigh. The guard stepped back, and the dog, Bruno, a retired K9 now used mostly for show, walked in without hesitation. No one expected what came next. Bruno stopped 3 feet from the inmate, ears back, tail stiff. Then, slowly, the big shepherd whined, a low, mournful sound. Not fear, recognition. The man on the bunk didn't move, didn't blink, just looked down at Bruno with a strange expression, part grief, part apology, and something else Elias couldn't place. "Hey, easy," Elias murmured, stepping in behind the dog. "He's not here to hurt you." "I know," the inmate said quietly. He already did what he was meant to. Elias froze. The words were simple, but there was weight behind them, like a body buried in soft dirt. "You got something you want to confess, Merritt?" Elias asked, shifting his stance. The man, Ty Merritt, convicted 17 years ago of killing a teenage girl in Grayson County, finally looked up. His eyes were steady. "No, just something I want someone to remember." Bruno whined again. They called it the tractor field murder. Grayson County hadn't seen a killing that brutal in decades. 15-year-old Emily Ray Gibbons found strangled, wrist broken, dress torn, half buried in a fallow patch behind her grandfather's farm. Ty Merritt was a farmhand. He'd been with a family for years. Quiet, hardworking. The kind people described as kept to himself after it was too late. But Elias had read the files. Merritt had motive, a history of boundary blurring with younger women. His DNA was on her dress. His muddy boot prints led to the site. He confessed after 3 days in holding. Case closed. But now, Elias watched the way Bruno refused to budge, how his head tilted like he was trying to make sense of something that didn't smell right. Merritt spoke again. "That dog, he was at the field, wasn't he?" Elias blinked. "What do you mean?" "The day they found Emily, there was a dog barking near the old grain silo. Wouldn't stop. I remember that." Elias frowned. "Bruno was assigned to the search unit back then, yeah." Merritt nodded slowly. "Then I know what he's trying to tell you." 20 minutes later, Elias sat alone in his office, door locked, blinds down. Bruno lay curled near his boots, silent now but watchful. Elias pulled the old file from storage. Paper records, yellowed and thick. Photographs clipped the corners. Handwritten notes in the margins. The original arrest report was neat, precise. So was a confession. But something in Merritt's voice wouldn't leave him. He picked up the receiver. "Get me Deputy Sloan," Elias said. "Off the record." Sloan arrived just before midnight. "Warden." She shut the door behind her. "You know this is highly irregular." Elias poured 2 fingers of scotch into a chipped ceramic mug. "This entire night's irregular." Sloan took off her jacket, revealing her badge clipped to her belt. Her face looked more tired than Elias remembered. Deeper lines, eyes like lit matches in a dark barn. "Why now?" she asked. "You've had 17 years to go looking." Bruno remembered him. That stopped her. Her eyes flicked to the dog, still curled near Elias's feet. He whined like he knew something, like it wasn't him. Sloan's jaw tightened. "You think Ty Merritt's innocent?" "I think something doesn't fit." He opened the file. "Tell me." Who pushed the confession? Sloan didn't answer. Sloan, Elias said quieter now. She exhaled hard. Sheriff Landry wanted it wrapped up. Pressure from the mayor. The girl's family was prominent, and there was heat. Merritt was the best option on paper. He was easy. He fit Elias. The scene wasn't staged. He had a record. You know, he crossed a line with a girl in '04. He crossed a line, but he didn't kill anyone. Sloan looked away. That girl, the one in '04, Elias said, thumbing through the file. Did she testify? Sloan paused. No. Parents moved her out of state. No charges ever filed. He looked at her. So we got a circumstantial case, a coerced confession. And now AK-9 reacting like it's standing in front of someone it's seen before. Seen at the murder site, Sloan added, or seen standing over the body. The silence in the office swelled. By morning, Merritt had been moved to final holding, his last meal untouched. No priest, no family. Elias went to see him. You ever wonder why I didn't fight harder? Merritt asked, eyes on the ceiling. Elias leaned against the bars. Every day since you asked for the dog. I figured someone might finally listen. He sat up slow, stiff. It was never about clearing my name. I'm not innocent. Not of everything. Just that. Who, then? Merritt smiled sadly. Emily had a cousin. Older boy. Used to visit from Huntsville. Elias stiffened. Brady Givens? Yeah. Quiet, too. But not the kind of quiet that means you're kind. I remember his name in the early reports. Elias said slowly. But he had an alibi. Hunting trip with his dad. Ever check if the dad's still alive? No. You should. That night, Elias dug through the police archive like a man possessed. Bruno stayed close the whole time, occasionally sniffing boxes, stopping by one in particular. Givens' case. Sup. Evidence. Inside were unused photos. Notes never entered into court. And one torn page with a partial fingerprint. Unmatched. Archived. Forgotten. Elias stared at it. Then he looked at Bruno. Let's find Brady. Brady Givens ran a body shop 20 miles out of town. Married. No kids. Clean record. Church board member. Local Rotarian. Elias watched him through the cracked blinds of a rented Ford. The man had the kind of face that didn't look guilty. But Elias had learned a long time ago that guilt didn't always leave marks. Sloan sat beside him. She looked pale. You really want to open this box? She asked. I think it's already open. He handed her the fingerprint photo. Think this matches? She didn't respond. Just got out of the car. Inside the garage, the air smelled like oil, rubber, and lemon cleaner. Brady came out of the back, wiping grease from his hands. Can I help you? Sloan flashed her badge. Mind answering a few questions, Mr. Givens? He hesitated a second too long. What about? Bruno stepped forward, eyes fixed, body low. And again the sound. That soft, aching whine. Brady looked down at the dog, and something in his face broke. Sloan's hand went to her belt. Mr. Givens? Brady bolted, but he didn't get far. Bruno lunged, brought him down hard against the concrete. When Elias reached him, Brady was already sobbing. It was supposed to be her, he said. Not me? Sloan cuffed him while Elias stood still, staring at the man's trembling hands. The same hands that had gripped Emily's neck. The same hands that had walked free for 17 years. Back at the prison, Elias stood outside the death chamber. Merritt was still inside. Still alive for now. Bruno sat beside him, pressed close. Did he say it? Merritt asked, did he finally say her name? Elias nodded. Merritt exhaled. They'll still kill me, he said. Not if I file the stay. They'll just delay it. Men like me don't get saved. They get repurposed. Elias didn't speak. You believe I'm not the one, don't you? I do now. Merritt looked at Bruno. So does he. Outside, dawn was breaking over Grayson County, pale orange cutting across prison walls. Inside, a man waited, not for death, but maybe for first time in years, for something close to peace. The state didn't like to be wrong. Staying in execution wasn't a simple matter of pulling a lever. It was paperwork, politics, power plays. And for Elias Granger, it meant making enemies on both sides of razor wire. Are you sure you want to stick your neck out like this? Sloan asked, pacing behind him as he stood at the warden's terminal, cursor hovering over the digital file marked, Emergency Stay, Inmate T.Y. Merritt. I'm not doing it for him, Elias said. I'm doing it for her, Emily Givens. Sloan crossed her arms. Then you're about to piss off the Givens family all over again. They deserve to know the truth, whether they want it or not. He hit send. Ty Merritt wasn't surprised when the guards came to pull him out of final holding. He was surprised when no one cuffed him. Deputy Sloan led him down the long hallway flanked by guards, her face unreadable, her jaw set. Bruno followed, leash slack, as if walking beside someone who finally belonged. Inside the meeting room, Elias waited. Sit, Elias said. Merritt looked around. No priest, no lawyer, no glass. Just 3 chairs, a table, and the sudden absence of death. You filed a stay, Ty said softly, sitting. We filed a motion to reopen the case. New evidence. The governor approved a delay until the review's done. Ty rubbed his wrists as if feeling ghost chains. Don't make me hope, Warden. I'm not, Elias said. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. Bruno padded over and sat beside Ty, leaning into his leg. You were wrong about one thing, Ty said quietly. What's that? I didn't confess because they pushed me too hard. His eyes met Elias's. I confessed because I thought I deserved it anyway. The Givens estate was a high-fence property tucked behind cotton fields and rusted cattle gates. The matriarch, Cora Givens, answered the door in a thick bathrobe, her gray hair pinned tight, not a line of sleep on her face. You've got nerve showing up here, she said to Elias. Both of you. Deputy Sloan stepped forward. Ma'am, we're here because your nephew Brady has been taken into custody. I know. Sheriff Landry called this morning. Told me I could expect vultures. Elias steadied his voice. Brady confessed. People say things under pressure. He said where he hid her hair ribbon. It matched the one missing from the crime scene. We found it wrapped in plastic behind the old grain silo. Cora's face didn't change, but her eyes shifted, just a flicker, like a house settling before it crumbles. That man killed my granddaughter. No, Elias said. Your family did. The words hung there, heavier than grief, heavier than truth. She didn't speak again, just shut the door. Back at the prison, the review board arrived in stiff suits and soft hands. They weren't there to apologize. They were there to weigh. Warden Granger sat through the first half of the hearing biting his tongue until it ached. Merritt's original confession was read out. Then came the evidence of Brady's match to the partial fingerprint. Bruno's behavior wasn't considered admissible, but it was mentioned twice. Then came the surprise. The prosecutor, District Attorney Dean Weller, same one who tried the case 17 years ago, requested a chance to speak. He was older now, stooped, angry-eyed, and leaning hard on a cane. You people want to exonerate a man who wrote out his confession in ink, who never once recanted in 17 years. He was a broken man, Sloan said, standing. And now you want to break the system to make up for your guilty conscience? It's not about us, Elias said. It's about Emily. Weller turned. Her mother shot herself 6 months after the trial. Her father moved to Kentucky. Her brother joined the army and never came back. Don't tell me about Emily. We buried her in pieces. Silence. Then Elias leaned forward. You know Merritt didn't do it. Weller's knuckles turned white on the cane. Brady Givens' alibi fell apart. His prints match. His confession matched details not released. That means someone got it wrong. Someone like me, Weller spat. No one's blaming you for trying to close a case under pressure, Elias said evenly. But if you keep the wrong man on death row to protect your record, that's not justice. That's vanity. Ty sat in his cell, untouched meal beside him, when Sloan came to deliver the news. They're vacating your sentence, she said. The charges are being reviewed for dismissal. You'll be transferred to county for now, pending the hearing. Ty stared at her. I don't belong in the world anymore. Too bad, she said, unlocking the door. He didn't move. She stepped closer. You were right. About the cousin. About the silence. I should have fought harder. You did 17 years. Ty looked away. You know what I remember most about Emily? He asked. Sloane shook her head. She used to feed the barn cats after school. Even the half-wild ones no one else could touch. She got this one to eat out her hand. A big old Tom with a torn ear and a scarred face. She called him Lucky. Was he? He disappeared the day she died. Sloane exhaled. I'm sorry. Ty nodded. Me too. That evening, Elias took Bruno back to the grain silo. The place had been fenced off, overgrown with weeds, rust curling down the sides of the tin walls. The air was thick with memory, sour, damp, heavy with mold and history. Bruno sniffed along the base of the structure, then stopped, pawed at a corner. Elias knelt. Behind the loose sheet of metal was a stack of old beer cans, cigarette butts, and a small hair ribbon, pink, stained faintly with time. Wrapped in it, a cigarette lighter. Initials scratched into the metal, BG. He called it in. Case closed. For real, this time. On the way back, Elias stopped at the Givens private cemetery. Emily's gravestone stood beneath a crooked oak, marble smoothed by rain and regret. He knelt beside it, Bruno sitting quietly behind. I don't know if he would have liked me, Elias said, but I hope this gets you some kind of peace. Bruno nudged closer, resting his chin on the stone. The wind shifted. A quiet, dry breeze through the oaks. Elias sat there until the stars came out. At the county lockup, Sloane watched Merritt change into civilian clothes, ill-fitting jeans, donated flannel. He looked like a ghost of someone else. Someone he'd shed in the night. You got anywhere to go? She asked. He didn't answer for a while. Then, I had a sister in Shreveport. She wrote once, about 10 years back. You want to call her? Don't think I'd know what to say. Try, I'm not dead. That's a start. Ty gave a small laugh. First she'd heard. You were one of the arresting officers, weren't you? He asked. I was. Do you feel it now? The weight. Every day. He nodded. Then we're both carrying ghosts. Elias drove him to the bus station himself. No cuffs. No escort. Just a man with a bag of donated clothes and 17 years in his bones. Before Ty climbed on, he turned to Elias. Did the dog really remember me? Elias looked at Bruno, tail wagging slow, calm. Maybe, he said, or maybe he remembered what everyone else forgot. Ty blinked hard, nodded, then boarded the bus. That night, Elias found himself back in the execution chamber. He stood alone on the polished floor, lights humming above. No witnesses, no condemned, just a chair. And silence. Bruno walked in, slow, and sat beside him. 17 years. Elias said. Bruno didn't move. You ever wonder how many other things we've missed? Still silence. Elias reached down and scratched the dog behind the ears. We'll try harder next time. Bruno leaned in, and for the first time in months, the warden closed his eyes. 3 weeks after the stay, the town of Grayson was quieter than usual. It wasn't just the heat, though the August air sat heavy as wet wool. It was something else, something that hung in the silence between conversations. The way people stopped talking when you entered a room. The way eyes lingered too long on closed doors and locked gates. They'd exonerated a man, but they'd also broken something else, something older than justice. Sheriff Landry said it best, behind a glass of bourbon and a half-hearted apology. People like clean endings. You just handed them a mess. The day Brady Givens pled guilty, there were no reporters, no press conference, no family members in the pews. Just Sloane, Elias, the district judge, and Brady, standing pale and shaking in his prison jumpsuit, hands trembling as the charges were read. Murder in the first degree, sexual assault of a minor, obstruction of justice. And then, in a voice so low the court clerk leaned forward, I never meant to kill her. I only wanted to scare her. She said she'd tell. The judge didn't respond, just set the date for sentencing. As they let him out, Brady passed Elias in the hallway and muttered, "You ruined my life." Elias didn't look at him. She was 15. Ty Merritt didn't speak to the press. He didn't give interviews. He didn't sue the state, though they knew the offers would come. He turned down legal representation from 3 national firms, all hungry to make him a martyr. He wanted none of it. Sloan drove him to a quiet halfway house near the county line. Brick exterior, white curtains in the windows, the kind of place where silence could be peaceful instead of punishing. "I'm not good around people," Ty said as they walked up the front steps. "You'll learn." He looked down at her, brow furrowed. "I won't forget what you did." "I won't forget what I didn't," she said. Ty nodded once, then turned and walked inside. At the prison, life moved on. Execution scheduled, cells filled. The world didn't stop for one wrongfully condemned man. But something had changed. Elias walked the blocks more often now, sat with the men, not to coddle them, not to ask for their side, but to listen. Some talked about childhoods like bad weather. Some talked about brothers, mothers, dead dogs. Some didn't talk at all. Bruno followed him everywhere. When they passed death row, the inmates would go quiet. Some nodded, some turned their backs. One whispered, "God bless the mutt," and the others didn't laugh. Bruno had become something else now, not just a dog, a witness, a reminder. Then came the letter. It arrived in Elias's office on a Tuesday, no return address. Just a single sheet handwritten, "Warden Granger. You don't know me, but I watched the trial when I was a girl. My mother used to say that monsters looked like us, that you couldn't always see them coming. I believe she was right. Until I saw the look on Ty Merritt's face that day they found him guilty. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like someone who'd already been eaten. Thank you for proving I wasn't wrong to believe he didn't do it. Some of us still pay attention." He folded the letter, slipped it into his drawer beside his service medal, and the key to the execution chamber. Late one night, Elias found himself standing in front of the room again. It was empty, lights off, shadows crawling over the polished floor. He reached for the door, but Bruno stopped, planted himself, refused to go in. "Don't like ghosts, huh?" Elias murmured. The dog whined low, then turned and padded away. Elias didn't follow. 3 days later, Merritt returned. Not to stay, not to protest, just to say something. Elias met him outside the fence, where the grass grew too long and the parking lot lights burned dim. "You sure you want to be here?" Elias asked. Ty nodded. "I owe you one. You don't owe me anything." Ty shook his head. "Not you, her." He handed Elias a sealed envelope. "Give this to Emily's father if you can find him, or bury it near her grave if you can't." "What's in it?" "Something I should have said 17 years ago." They stood in silence. Bruno circled them once, then sat between them. "Do you know what the hardest part was?" Ty asked. "No, it wasn't prison. It wasn't the violence, the time. It was watching the world forget her name." Elias looked at the envelope. "They won't now." Ty offered his hand. Elias shook it. Then the man who once sat on death row turned and walked back to a life that still didn't quite belong to him. Elias drove out to the cemetery just after dusk. The sky was bruised purple, the stars poking out like pinholes in a veil. He stood beside Emily Given's grave and read the letter aloud. The ink was faded, the handwriting shaky, but the words were honest. "Emily, I failed you. I failed to speak up when it counted. I failed to stop what I should have seen. I lived when you did not, and for that, I will carry your name every day. You deserve better. You were brave, kind, and full of light, and I let the world darken that. I'm sorry. TM." When he finished, Elias folded the letter, placed it beneath a stone at the base of the grave. Bruno lay down in the grass beside him. The wind stirred. This time, it didn't feel like judgment. 6 months later, the prison warden's office bore a new nameplate. Elias had retired, quietly, without ceremony. Sloan got promoted. Some said it was political. Others said it was earned. She kept Bruno, who had been formally decommissioned and transferred to her care. No one argued. On her first day in the new role, she stood in the execution chamber alone. Bruno stayed outside, and she didn't step forward, not even a little. Elias moved to a small lake house in eastern Texas, a place where the birds came back in spring and the fog rolled in like old memory. He didn't miss the clanging of cell doors. He didn't miss the politics. But sometimes he missed the people, even the broken ones, especially the broken ones. He kept a letter from Elle in a frame on his wall. Sometimes he read it again, not for comfort, but for reminder. 2 years later, a podcast picked up the case. Interviews, deep dives, headlines, the dog who changed death row. Ty Merritt declined every request. But once quietly, Sloan asked him if he'd ever consider speaking to kids in juvenile detention, not to tell them they'd end up like him, but to show them how the system could. He said yes. He didn't always know what to say, but they listened anyway. Bruno came along. Always. Final scene. A girl stands at Emily Given's grave. Maybe 16, maybe younger. Hair in a braid. Sneakers scuffed. She doesn't cry. She just places a single white flower by the stone. Beside her, a tall man stands silently. Ty Merritt. Older now. Quieter, but not hollow. Sloan waits by the car, watching. Bruno lies nearby, ears up, tail wagging once the dust. The girl turns to Ty. She was your friend? He thinks. Then she deserved one. They walk back to the car together, slowly, like time has loosened its grip on them. And the grave? It stays still, but not silent. Somewhere, deep in the trees, the wind whispers her name.